Time being 6 o'clock, 18th of November, we'll call the zoning board meeting to order at this time. Our agenda will consist of a reading of the minutes of the last meeting, which should amount to all about 15 seconds. Has everybody read the minutes? Can I get a motion?
Yeah, I did find a typo.
Uh-oh.
He's down from 100% to 99.5 accuracy.
You're looking for a new job on Monday, I can see that right
But it
now.
doesn't change the meaning of the sentence any, so I think we can probably let it go. Unless you want to fix it.
Yeah, so, I'm making sure.
I'll make a motion to approve the board minutes as written. I'll deal with you later.
But I'm not voting tonight, so, well, anyway, there's on,
On page 2, the fourth full paragraph, ignore the first partial paragraph.
Yeah.
Maybe the second or third sentence, maybe Mr. Helwig reiterated that the proposal would not exceed the allowable density. I
Instead
wrote
of need.
would need exceed the allowable density.
That's the one, yeah.
Okay, all right.
So,
So,
I'll move that we approve the minutes
with that change,
as edited
has that,
for October 21st, 2014.
okay, we have a second, Kathy, second. All in favor? Aye.
All right?
Okay. We almost got a majority. We got a majority, just not.
I heard 3.
Yeah. Okay. We have one issue, one application here tonight. The ZBA case 14-08 variance application seeking relief from zoning article 6.1. Comma D, parenthesis 2, to allow for medical officers at 100 Autumn Drive in the Rural Agricultural District, map R6, lot 10-2. Who's going to represent that? You, Eric? Or-
I'm going to represent, my name's Steve Nix, I'm an attorney representing Bob Callahan and the Tilton Sports Center, and also this is Eric, the manager position.
Hold on a second.
Sorry.
You're perhaps looking for upstairs or the Autumn Drive?
Oh no, this is Michelle, the massage therapist,
Oh,
sort of a part of our application
Okay.
process. If you don't mind, I'll just remain seated instead of standing up.
That's
Yeah,
fine,
it's,
that's fine.
What I have very quickly is I put together sort of a memorandum addressing the legal aspects of the zone variance criteria, which I will go over, and I promise I will not read this. I'll just go over the highlights. The application is for a variance to allow a medical office in the structure, which is located up at 100 Autumn Drive. It's the Tilton Sports Center. The center also has the indoor soccer fields. There's a portion of the building that is designed with offices in it. And in 1997, there was a variance granted for office space. We were unable to put our hands on a 1997 ordinance to see if office space was divided into regular office, professional office, and medical office the way it is today, but decided we would come to the board and let you know exactly what these two offices are going to be. One of them, one of the offices is going to be a massage therapist, and in a minute I'll let Michelle talk about hers. And the other is a nutritionist, Devin Abbott. Did you pronounce that right? Yeah, Devin Abbott, and she does holistic health and wellness. And here's a description of what she does for the file as well. I don't have a copy of that. I apologize. But the two the two will be leasing the offices, and they're independent from each other. Am I correct in saying that? Is that they're not related to each other, so they have two separate offices in the office wing of the building. Basically, what happens is the nutritionist has clients, and she meets some of the clients at the office. She does a lot of on-the-phone work, and she meets people at home. And she has the office so she can get away from her house and her kids, meet the clients, and they talk about nutrition, meal plans, that type of thing. It's basically a one-on-one, so the overall impact to the property is minimal. Again, she's not there all the time either, but when a client shows up, there's only one. It doesn't conflict with the other uses of the property. The main use of the property right now is really the fields, and the big time for those is in the evenings. Actually, we were just over there, and I was able to see a bunch of 10-year-old kids in there having a great time. The massage therapist works the same way. I think you only have one client at a time.
Generally.
Why don't you go ahead?
Hi, I'm Michelle. Nice to meet all of you. I will have one or two clients come in at a time. Normally I'm working on one person at a time, but I have husband and wives that will come and sit while the other one is there. So, but it's generally still one vehicle, one client at a time. The most that will come in is maybe a group of people, 3 or 4 at a time. And again, they're all just waiting in line, kind of just hanging out while the other part is getting their massage or having their service. So my sessions run anywhere from a half hour to 2 hours, and basically they come and I work on any pains that they might have, any issues that might be going on, and go from there. So
There's, with both of these, there's no medical waste that's generated, so that's not an issue. Again, it's a limited amount of parking. I think that what I've done is addressed that's sort of the background, but I've addressed the issues in my memorandum, or the elements for the variance. One is it's not contrary to the public interest. Again, this building was a pre-existing building that is in the rural agricultural zone. So the building itself has existed since the 1960s, I believe. And it's got a wing on it that has offices in it that really, that particular wing isn't good to use for anything else the way that it's constructed in there, that these are offices.
Can I stop you just for a moment?
Sure.
Wasn't there one other use that's going to be applied here, in addition to, that you started out with? In addition to Michelle's business, wasn't there going to be another one?
Nutritionist?
The nutritionist, right,
Okay.
right.
What is that going to amount to before you start going to the...
Well, I'm sorry, and I probably got I was going pretty quickly. I probably combined the two together almost, but the nutritionist is the person who meets sort of one-on-one with their clients and talks about diet and nutrition.
I've had personal sessions with her. Would you like me to explain a session and how it kind of sets up?
I don't want to get real technical about the
I can do it.
session. She's going to occupy another office, so it's going to
Correct.
be essentially another business entity
Correct.
that we're talking about in that location.
Correct.
Okay, now move on.
Yeah, okay. And really, from what we see, the biggest issues are the impact on the neighborhood. And because these are such low impact uses, even though that they're separate entities, we don't believe there's going to be any visible impact on the neighborhood at all. Everything's going to occur inside to begin with, so the only impact on the neighborhood would be the cars that are coming and going. And the number of cars is so small compared to the overall parking lot and the athletic field use on the site that it's de minimis, or almost, you won't even know that it's going on. Again, the building is already houses professional offices. Well, excuse me, I should say office space. That's what which amounts to Bob's office, and the spirit of the ordinance will be observed. I've cited here what the state statutory purposes of a zoning ordinance are on page 2 of my memorandum, which includes to lessen congestion, that secure safety from fire, panic, promote health and general welfare, provide adequate light and air, prevent overcrowding of land, and to avoid undue concentration of population. None of these are an issue. The building has recently gone through a complete fire department review and was granted its permits for the uses in the building. It's got a fire suppression system on it. These new uses will have absolutely no impact on that. There's adequate parking for the new uses. Again, there's no over congestion or impact to the neighborhood. Variance requested upholds the spirit of the ordinance. Again, there will be the spirit of the ordinance, there will be no additional congestion in the area. So the next test is substantial justice. And I cited a case here, which, a New Hampshire Supreme Court case, which does a pretty good job of telling us what the test is. It says, substantial justice is you have to weigh any loss to the individual, and that it should not be outweighed by the gain to the public. So you have to do this weighing test to see if there's substantial justice. And in this case, not being able to use the existing building with the office wing for these very minimal uses is a huge impact on the private property owner, and very little impact, very little gain to the public by not allowing it. So that's the weight right there, is that the private property owner loses a lot, and the town doesn't gain much at all by not allowing this. Values of surrounding properties will not be diminished. Again, this particular application is focused on the massage therapist and the nutritionist, which are both indoor uses, and but for a small sign on the main sign, no one will even know that it's occurring on the inside, so there'll be no impact to butters or butters' property values. Then we get to unnecessary hardship, where the test is that the literal enforcement of the provisions of the ordinance will not result in unnecessary hardship. The first part of the test is that owing to the special conditions of the property, we distinguish it from other properties in the area. I'm going to stop there. There's a semicolon after that. The special conditions of this particular piece of property are the fact that the building exists. There's the large, I'll call it the barn building, with the attached office space. It exists on the site. It exists in the pre-zoning format, and that's what the special conditions of this piece of property are. And the second part of that test is there's no fair and substantial relationship between the general public purpose and the specific application. And again, that goes back to the weighing test. What's fair? And is there something that the town and the public generally are gaining by not allowing this particular use? And I think you can just use common sense to see that it's such a minimal use on the existing property that the town doesn't gain, or the public doesn't gain. The second part of this first test is that the proposed uses are reasonable use, and this is again a common sense. You need to look at it from a common sense standpoint. Massage therapy and the nutritionist are very minimal. The building's already there. Doesn't have a huge impact on the neighborhood. It appears as if it's a reasonable use. I'd also like to point out that there are other uses that are allowed in the agricultural zone, which have a much larger impact when you compare it to what the proposal is tonight. You can have a bed and breakfast for people coming and going. You can have home offices, and the home office could actually generate just as much or more than more traffic. You can have agricultural uses, which would include farm stands, and in today's world, you could also have farm-to-table events, which would create more traffic. And just using those as comparisons, so as you're making your decision, you can see that this is a pretty reasonable use for this particular piece of property. And I think I have covered the tests for a variance, and we're open for questions. And I want to point out that was less than 10 minutes.
I guess to begin with, the one thing I know is pretty much the history of this property, going all the way back to Texas. Okay, and it started out as a manufacturing facility, if you will. And in the 90s, it was changed to a photographic movie-making type entity, but that's where the offices came into being. Because I happened to be the building inspector at the time, so I went through the whole process with them. Of course, those offices were supposed to be associated with the movie-making operation. And now from there, we came into this field for different types of ball play, of whatever will take place out there. Before I go any further, is there anything else right now taking place other than that? Is the field being used, is there, for the inside sports?
Well, there's an application that's before the board for a, what do you call it,
Health center.
Health center, yeah, which has a weight room, and it has an indoor obstacle course, where there's ropes and things like that. So that application is before the planning board next week, I believe.
Okay, well, I wasn't aware of that, but that could be associated obviously with the indoor sports.
Correct.
Question
Right.
about that.
Right.
But what gives me a little cause for concern here is that I'm seeing a mission creep, if you will, to use the current term, it's popular, that we just keep adding on to more and more things to see if they fly. But in fact, what it was originally intended for and what it had been approved for in the past seems to be expanding all the time. Now, once one thing gets approved, then that kind of remains in a variance history to where you can go back at any time and make reference to the fact that a variance which runs with the land is already been approved. So we're piling on with all kinds of things here that I don't believe that that's the intent of the variance procedures. Okay, to just keep adding on to variances unless we're going to do away with other variances. And I'm not quite sure how that works. I've never encountered that before, because they do run with the land.
Well, I think you bring up a good point, and that's why I mentioned the 1997 variance. But as you can see from the application, we're not arguing that these particular uses fall under that variance. We'd be here on an appeal of administrative decision if we were doing that. So we're sort of saying, you know, you hit the nail right on the head, is that times change, and the use of that property, you've been in there obviously, it's enormous, and it takes a lot to support that property. Some of the ideas have worked, some of them haven't worked. That's why at this point what they're trying to do is get uses that are in those offices that may not, they may be leased uses, as you said, a new business, but we're trying to get them in, trying to find the businesses that don't provide a huge impact to the property, that people can utilize it, and the property can be economically viable, so it basically doesn't get all shut up and people walk away from it, and this is the method. That's why we're in front of you, to put this on the table and ask for these additional variances.
I understand that.
Yeah.
But I think you'll agree that every time a variance gets approved, that becomes one more use in the stack of uses that has been formally approved that can be applied to any future sale of the property, for example. So that would leave the town in a rather precarious position if and when the property ever were to sell, and say, well, there must be a dozen variances here approving all kinds of things. Now,
Yeah.
the fact that the property is in the agricultural district, at some point in time, that has to come into play.
Sure.
We can't have I feel that we can't really have a developing situation that keeps growing and growing, because that's really throwing the rights of the neighbors right out the window. They're all in the rural agricultural area, that's what they want to have in their immediate environment. And they're losing that gradually but surely every time this happens. I'm not sure how much activity the current sports fields take on, or how much of that parking lot fills up for the activities. But that was approved and generates whatever, I don't know, what does it generate?
Not even enough to get by yet. We have,
What are you doing to get
Economically
by?
wise,
I mean,
so
just
we
as far as activity. How
is it
many-
busy? We're busy probably from 5 at night till 9. Most of the time it's only till 8.
How many cars show up for that activity?
Tonight there was I was there at a changeover, where the young kids, I don't know what kids were coming in, or what, but there was a changeover, which is the time period that the most number of cars would be in the parking lot. And when we drove around the parking lot, and it wasn't quite 2/3 full, so there was additional parking to be had.
Yeah, it'd be like 30 or 40 cars, is that?
Exactly.
Yeah, that's about right, yeah. Yeah, that's what it felt like.
But it could be up to 68 parking spaces.
Right, so that's, and that's, I completely hear and understand what you're saying is that these uses would get layered on, but the representations being made is that there's a massage therapist and there's a nutritionist who are operating an independent business. If the massage therapist all of a sudden has 5 employees, then it's a different story. Yeah, I think if the business were expanded to that point, that to the point that the parking starts impacting and the neighborhood is impacted, then we'd have to be back in here, or at least to the planning board. It's sort of a dual.
It's kind of a nebulous
Yeah.
battle to go with, because I've encountered this type of stuff in the past, that by whose estimation, the amount of use that it's getting is calling for a site plan review. And it's really muddy waters, anytime it's come up. Let me just ask this, these 2 other uses, are there gonna be any employees other than yourself and the nutritionist?
I was looking to have one other woman come on board with me, but she would work the times that I'm not working, so it would be one of us there, not both of us there at the same time, because I'm not busy enough to warrant.
Are you working both in the same office?
Yes.
No,
I would,
no,
and not
the
right now,
nutritionist?
no, the nutritionist is in a different one. I would like to have another woman come on board for me, and I was talking hopefully December, depending on when everything went through. But she would work off hours of me, so basically, I'm working Monday through Friday, 8 to 2. She would work in the evenings from 5 to 8 or whatever. So we would not be there at the same time. Does that make sense?
I hear what you're saying.
Okay.
You're gonna be there Monday through Friday, you said,
Well,
not Monday and Friday.
no. I work, I had my office in Pittsfield, so I do a lot of home appointments, so I'm not always there Monday through Friday, but I work Monday through Friday. So I do a lot of home appointments, so there's probably 1 or 2 days that I'm off on the road doing home appointments, and then 3 or 4 days that I'm at the office.
Well, what made you choose this particular location for that kind of business as opposed to being, for example, along Route 3 somewhere?
One of my dreams has always been to have a wellness center, and I have a dream board that actually had the sports aspect in it. It had all of the features that Bob already currently has in that building. And I really enjoyed Bob because he's a go-getter, he's ready to go, he wants to get things done, he wants to move. Whereas a lot of the people I've encountered in this busy business are very, they say one thing, but their actions tell another. So I was very excited to join his facility because my business travels by word of mouth only. I don't do any advertising, I don't do anything, and I've been in business for 8 years, so. So I don't need to be a Route 3, and I don't honestly want to be a Route 3 person because I want to have qualified clientele being brought to me. People that know the type of work that I do, that know somebody that can benefit, that are going to tell them about me. Is that, so I don't want it to be just.
You don't need to.
Okay.
That's okay, thank you. I open this up to the board here, get some questions going, if you have some.
Well, I share your sentiments too. All week I've been thinking along the same lines. You know, I'm accustomed to the possibility of changing from one non-conforming use to another in a singular sense, but I've never encountered a situation like this where we have a multifaceted building being created slowly. I'm kind of undecided what we should do with this. If we had initially changed it, I think, to a multifunctional building, classified it that way before, when it was originally altered,
Give me the additional variance of 97.
yeah, then we wouldn't have this issue going on right now, probably, you know. So I'm just sitting here trying to decide which way to go. Hopefully I'll find an answer at some point. That's my big concern. I was wondering about signage. If the planning board had ever approved a larger sign out front or additional shingles on it, or if that's in progress now. Where are we at with signage? I don't know what you've got.
Eric, do you want
We just have a sign that fits, that was approved by the code enforcement officer. I believe it's 24 or 30 square feet.
That's what's allowed in the RA area.
Right, and
So-
that has, it says Tilton Sports and Wellness Center on it.
Okay,
And then
I've seen that sign.
Yeah, and then underneath it, we just list the offices over there, and that's all we intend to. We don't plan to light it or anything like that. It's
Yeah,
just-
but you won't be adding shingles to it, or
Yeah, and following whatever protocol is set forth by the town. The reason that originally we weren't gonna put a sign, but, I know it's hard to believe, but you come up that road and people don't see, they come up partway up the road, now they can kinda see the white, because it's a white sign, and they can kinda see it when they come up at night, and they don't think they're going down a back road as much as they are. You know,
yeah, it's further up the road than a lot of people anticipate.
yeah, and I get, you know, at the beginning of each session that we have for the sports, I always get the people that are new call and say, where exactly are you? And I can ask if they have GPS, and I say, put the GPS and trust where it's gonna take you.
Sign shows up pretty good in the daytime.
Yeah. During the daytime, the sports side of it is pretty dead. You get people that come in that have heard of us and maybe talk about bringing their high school team to come practice, or, rent a team that, like in October, we had a lot of.
Which works really well with when I go in there, most of the time, from the times that I'm in, there's no cars in the parking lot, and it doesn't start until like the 5 o'clock. So most of the business, like between Devin and I, we both work during the day, so the parking lot is completely empty. And even when the times that I'm leaving, most of the time I'm gone before they even start getting going as far as the time frame.
Thank you, that's all I have for now.
I think one of the things that struck me when Bob was originally telling me what was going on is that in many of the athletic facilities, like Guilford Hills, and I belong to the Gunstock Inn, they have a pool and athletic facility out there. Those facilities all have the ones that I'm familiar with, they all have massage therapy and nutritionist sort of combined within it. And the reason we're here today is because the code enforcement officer looked at this and said, wait a minute, this is a separate use that's listed. So really, I mean, this isn't trying to put, a law office in with the sports center. I mean,
They're related.
They're related,
Right.
right, it's all.
Depends whether they're ambulance chases or not.
Well, is it okay if I ask a question? Like, I'm
Sure,
completely
sure.
new to all of this. I mean, my intent was to hopefully have a wellness center eventually. So would a wellness center be separate from the sports center, or where it's Tilton Sports and Wellness Center, would it, like, is there an umbrella for a wellness, just that anything that falls under those things that's non-medical or non, you know?
It's a wellness center, consistent. Doctors, nurses.
Not, no, for the wellness aspect, like acupuncture, massage therapy, it's more for the alternative healing aspects than it is the
Kind of
medical.
like you find at exit 16, Concord to Hospital.
Yeah, the one, the hospital, the side thing that they have in the hospital, is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, that's a wellness center, actually. It's like a physical therapy.
Right. Right, everything that supports or helps the overall health, but not so much the diagnoses or the, prescribing of anything.
I don't think there'd be any issue here really with medical, and medical office associated with the sports thing itself. I think that would make sense to me. And any a club of that nature, whether it be a Hampshire Hills type club or something like that, they could very likely have something there in case there was an accident of some type.
Right.
And that would be reasonable. When we start engaging a different type of clientele that have nothing to do with the sports themselves, now it becomes a separate business, in my view. Okay, this is where I'm having a problem, with the fact that we seem to be creating new businesses upon new businesses in an area that was agricultural, had a variance to exist, actually not a variance, it was grandfathered to exist as a manufacturing facility.
Mhm.
And then we started on this path, as I reiterated earlier,
Right.
to where we are today. And now every time we turn around, we have this mission creep and groping for more businesses to occupy the site. And where do we draw this line? It's one thing that had to do with the sports facilities, but now this really doesn't. I mean, you could say that there would be some, but in reality, we've only talked about people coming into your particular office for some type of assistance, whatever it would be, whatever you're offering them. So therefore, I would look at it as a separate entity from what the sports field itself would be trying to come up with. I think I've already expressed everything relative to how I'm looking at it. So again, I would come back to the board and George, Marina, Kathy, what would you have something to add to this?
I'm questioning, you have, according to this plan, there's 12 offices, and there's 2 people, you and then the person. What are you gonna do with the other? There's 10 more office spaces here on this. What's happening with that?
Right now, Bob has his office in there, and there's just furniture in the other one. He was telling me, keeps the doors closed because he doesn't need it.
But if we go, if
Right, on a hypothetical, I would,
Well, it's, I'm sorry.
no, that's fine.
Well, at this point, it's impossible to tell what the plan is, because, Michelle's indicating that she may want to expand her use, but if somebody else who's got a use that is compatible with what's going on out there, Bob certainly doesn't want to bring people, or a use in that's not compatible with what else is going on. But to force to say what is gonna happen in the future, we don't know. We don't know. But what I'd ask you to do is look at what the test, what the legislature and the Supreme Court has given you for the test on variance, and ask what the town is going to gain by taking away a private property right that Bob would otherwise have through the zoning ordinance. What's the town gonna gain by not letting them have a massage therapist? And I understand it's in the agricultural zone, but a zoning ordinance is taking away private property rights, and we all agree to that. But there's gotta be some gain to the town. And
Okay, well, let me just answer that question briefly. The gain to the town, if anything, would be the protection of the citizens in the immediate vicinity of the business. Okay, they all live in an agricultural zone, that's why they're there. Now, if an entity starts to grow, then that's taking away their rights too.
I go back and, you know, there's a kennel across the street, which is pretty good size, yeah, pretty good sized kennel, which the entire time I was there, I knew that kennel was over there. Even when I was sitting inside next to a window, I knew that kennel was over there. I'm just comparing to say, is a massage therapist and a nutritionist, are they really gonna have the same impact on the agricultural neighborhood that agricultural uses could potentially have out there?
They themselves would agree to have a very low impact. I can see that, that's not the issue. But this is just the beginning of things, as by your own admissions, that there's more offices there. So what's next? In other words, are we gonna continue with the mission creep, and this gets approved, and before you know it, we have 2, 3 others in there? How does it stop? And where do the rights of the abutters and those in the immediate vicinity, traffic on the road, all of this starts building and keeps building?
I have a question.
Shoot.
The lot to the north of your facility that's been high graded recently, is that yours?
No,
Okay, that belongs to another person.
That
I
belongs to-
checked. Okay. I just wanted to know if it was related to your house.
no, they think we're up there taking it.
Because if it was, the next question was, where are you going with that, you know?
That was ours.
Yeah, sorry, I got
Thank
If
you.
I'm out of place, I don't. So my perception when I came in here is that this is a beautiful building, and it has the office spaces that it has to be provided to be filled. And from my assumption, that was it. So once the building is filled, it would run basically the way it would run. So however the capacity, the only amount that it would ever grow to is the amount of office spaces that was there. Does that make?
We can't add to the building.
Right, exactly.
There's no more space to be built out.
So-
But those offices were there for the last 35 years.
Right.
We didn't build them. I just cleaned the place up and put it back to code. You saw it, we put back into it. There's nowhere else to go. Hard enough to get good tenants in there. You know, medical variance would have helped, it'd be great. It would. Never thought we'd ever be in front of you guys to do this, but, you know, the board thought it would be correct to come and see us, so we're here.
I want to say, she had said that Michelle occupies 3 actual offices, the nutritionist occupies 1, and then Bob occupies 1, so that's 5 offices that are occupied. And, you know,
So realistically, there's
and
not
I
a
can
whole
tell you,
heck of a lot more space that
they're not
could.
beating our door down.
Right.
There's not 10 cars in the parking lot. You know, compared to those, for what you see there for space, so.
I only have 2 hands. I'm good.
Any more questions? No immediate questions from the board, I'll open it up to the public at this time. If they have anything they want to add? Jane?
You know, I just wanted to know what you consider the function rooms as, what kind of, to whom do you rent the function room?
Well, we're here tonight for a variance for,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, no, but that space in there, is that a part of the, I mean, is it used by the occupants of the offices?
The, which room are you talking about, like the little theater room that was there?
Yeah.
You haven't used it, have you?
I haven't, yeah. You
They're
said
more
that I
than welcome to
couldn't.
come over and use it. Anybody who's in that facility is more than welcome.
Okay.
Absolutely, yeah. It's, you know, if I can help this business, and it keeps up my business going, we're paying taxes, we're helping out. It's keeping it
It's a
alive.
win-win
It's keeping it alive, is what I guess my best way to say it is. It's been tough. It's been 8 years since we met out there, Joe.
Mm-hmm, yeah, I know.
It's been a long time, so,
Oh, wow.
you know.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yes, sir.
if you don't mind me interrupting for a second, Chairman. My name is Justin Slatter with the Belknap Economic Development Council, and I've gotten to know Eric and Bob, especially in the last couple of months, and gotten to know, some of their efforts around community development, really, in the Lakes region, and the benefits of having that nice, clean facility. Been there for a couple of great meetings there, and having that facility is a great amenity, to the region, and having that kind of a wellness center as they were describing is just something that I know our board, as we focus on what we call live, work, and play, if you will, in the Lakes region, and having a good environment for young families. It has been a great place to sort of show off from time to time, and the type of physical fitness that is so important to many people. So I just wanted to mention that, and wanted to stop by and listen in on the meeting today, and touch base, I guess you'd say. So thank you for having me.
Thank you. No other public here, I guess, so in that case, I'll close it to the public, go back to the board. And,
What kind of an all-encompassing term do you put on this development, this expansion, where we're using physical massaging, physical therapy, nutrition, and all that? What singular phrase or word would cover that?
Well, yeah, I'm old school, so I call it the health club, or the gym. When I was at UNH in the 70s, they were pretty progressive in the gym down there, and they had all of these facilities in one place. We would go over and we'd play racquetball, swim, work out, and they had the people who were learning how to do massage. That was back in the early days.
Yeah.
I might be dating myself, but
No,
so I call it the gym, but then we called it the health club. I was a member over at Gilbert Hills back in the early 80s, and we called it the health club. Now they call it a wellness center, but it's internally they change a little bit. People don't play racquetball much anymore. We used to play racquetball, so they had those facilities around. Then now they're doing these indoor courses and stuff, and I'm getting a little lame to do those things, but but they have
I know great massage therapist.
Yeah. Well, I have been visiting, no, not Michelle, but I have been visiting her a little bit. But they do spinning and lighter stuff for those of us who are getting on.
I like the wellness center term that pretty
Wellness
well
is pretty
encompasses
good.
everything.
Yeah.
What have you got on the sign now?
Sports and wellness center.
Sports and
Tilton
wellness center?
Sports and Wellness Center. I don't know, maybe a week or 10 days ago, I had a woman named Jane, but it wasn't you, call me, a Tilton resident, asked me, could we have some senior citizens? I guess they walk at the outlet mall in the warmer weather, and they were looking for places to walk around inside.
In the winter.
And I'm like, well, if you do 14 laps in the field, it's.
It wouldn't have been me if it was a senior citizen.
No, she said, she goes.
That's true.
But she asked if we could do it tied into to offer it at times, tied into when they do meals at the senior center, because they can either walk before they ate or after they ate. And I said, just to let you know, it's not like the track, it's 14 laps to do a mile around our field. And she's like, we just take a place that's warm to come inside. And that was
Not too far away from your meeting.
no, so it's something that you know, that we're tossing around just trying to figure out when we can schedule it and, you know, just give people a place to come in and warm up. We're there. Nice to have a little company during the daytime once in a while, so. And if it matters, I can tell you that we're not looking to put in, you know, a doctor's office or, you know, we want to keep it like massage and nutrition, just keep it related to sports. And, you know, that people coming there can kind of get related services. Because we do have adults that they run around with their kids and they get hurt. Or they're looking to make choices to eat better. And Devin just apologized, she couldn't be here tonight because her husband's on the road unexpectedly, and she didn't want to bring her two small children here. So.
There's no other public input, if you want to go ahead.
We already closed the public.
You did?
Yeah.
What was I sleeping?
I didn't call you.
My eyes closed?
I heard you.
I thought I did, anyway.
So you want to
From a formal, well, it's closed to the public now.
discuss this amongst the
I'm sorry.
other members, or just toss this around?
Yeah, you already said it's back to the board, where the board wants to go with it.
Yeah, I would like to go ahead and get something moving here and put it under the auspices of, you know, a full wellness center, so that we don't have to continually be coming back for additional variance, you know, changes in use. It's, I have the same concern you do, that, you know, otherwise, if we do it office by office, it's just creepy crawling. The conditions that, you know, there's no exterior expansion or authorized, the changes to the parking lot, that sort of stuff. Because right now they're operating, you know, in an unlighted situation outside, which shouldn't bother the residents up on. The ones that are concerned about the most are up on Perkins Drive on the hill on the boundary of Samerton there. They look right down on this thing, basically.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And I did hear from someone who was concerned about it up on that neck of the woods.
John?
I don't remember, they were actually, they were not in a butter. They were, someone just up the road a piece.
Yep.
Apparently there's been some
Those are the ones that I would be.
logging on the site up there, because he mentioned the fact that they had logged an area and now.
It wasn't a clear cut, it was a high grade. They took out everything, all the brush, and left a few trees.
There's been two logging operations up there.
Yeah.
There's one
Pretty well cleaned
across the
out.
street from us where they kind of did rows, and then the one that's directly across the street. And driving up the road, you wouldn't even know it was there. And then
That's right.
the one next to us is the house that's next to us. Is their property surrounds us, and they have come in and they have plans to bring that back to public agriculture with fruit trees and kale.
Yeah, they left a few seed trees there.
Yeah.
Future.
Yeah, I think their plan is some type of partnership with Homeowners one from Samerton.
That's right.
Yeah, I think they have some type of partnership with them to grow fruit.
But I drove up there and then I turned left on the Perkins and stopped, and you can see right
Yeah,
there.
we'll see clear to Samerton.
Terry, did you
That's-
have- oh,
Well,
sorry.
it's just responding to Mr. Brown's comment, that, you know, maybe the board would sort of want to approve something more of a wellness center, and I guess
Exactly.
my thought on that would be that the board wouldn't necessarily want to change the wording of the request, but that, if maybe that same goal could be accomplished through conditions, number of separate entities potentially allowed there.
Correct.
You know, some sort of constraints on You know, obviously brain surgery would probably be considered a stretch.
Darn.
So that's,
And the hamburger heaven?
That would help so much. You really want a massage.
because,
The only problem with your theory, which from what I've observed in the past, is that anytime you start putting restraints on things, then pretty soon there's a variance sought to get around the restraint.
Yeah,
Okay, so you're never really locked into anything. Because once it's there, it's just, if somebody wants to change it, then they come in there on their hands and knees and they beg to change it. And that's, it just goes on indefinitely. Watch
but
it.
you're, but, Dory's correct in that the actual request calls for medical offices, or offices for medical use. And that's kind of misleading, I think, you know, it's not where we're going.
What they're doing is really not medical.
No.
Is that where you're going? I mean, it might be in the medical field, but it's not.
So I fall back on the wellness category again, which would be all encompassing pretty much, as far as, with the exception of medical.
I'm not quite sure how you mean that. How would you use that in the motion you would make?
I haven't figured that out
and if I may, I believe medical offices is probably in there because it directly corresponds with the line item on the chart of permitted uses that they're seeking a variance from. So I think that's where the terminology came from.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
I want to incorporate something around there into the whole thing.
Yeah, this is basically what we need to focus on. Yeah. Great conditions, I had a couple of meals and two regarding the expansion. Should we want to refer to it as a change in use?
Not sure how would you consider it that. Where are you going with that? Coincide with that.
Non-conforming?
To me, it's an extension of a non-conforming
Yeah.
use, is what it is.
Article 9.2 is what I'm looking at. The board is permitted to change one non-conforming use to another non-conforming use, not substantially different in its purpose, manner, and no more harmful objection to the neighborhood, provided the building involved shall neither be structurally altered or enlarged. Seems to fit pretty good. Did you read that?
Mm-hmm.
Bob,
Yes, sir.
was the first part of that, did it say change from one non-conforming use to another?
Yes, it does.
So what is the non-conforming use that's being vacated in favor of taking up this one in that case?
I don't have a variance from 97, I have in front of me. That would probably give us the clue.
The variant,
It's
I
not
can
really.
put it in front of you, but I'm not, I mean, it was for the film studio and
Mhm.
sort of offices associated with the film studio.
Was that 97?
I believe so, yeah.
I bought it in 2006.
Okay.
So that,
No, I mean, change of ownership, you know, on space doesn't have an impact on a variance,
Okay.
yeah.
I'm gonna say, I see 3 words there, but give me a little bit of, give me a little gloss there.
You can't read it?
Spell it out.
I was making a suggestion, professional health offices.
That they are or they should not be.
Were you all talking about not calling it a medical office?
So she's saying that you could call it
I
professional.
work in one to live.
I'm not opposed to such work, if it fits within what
It's just
Robert's
a thought
putting
for you.
together.
Everybody's kind of set on
I don't know that it's
medical,
necessary, I guess it's,
You know, they think surgery and doctors and needles and.
these health and wellness center doesn't that really kind of cover everything
It really does, yeah.
Yeah, it does.
without getting involved with professional, if you will.
Did you say health and wellness center or sport and wellness center? That's what he's got there now, sport and
Health.
wellness center.
Health and wellness,
Sports, health,
That's all, no problem. Says it all in a nutshell.
sports center with health and wellness,
Trying health and wellness.
health and wellness. Offices, sorry, health and wellness assistants.
Yeah.
I find it interesting on this 9.2, I remember this has bothered me a long time, it says, may order the issuance of a permit.
Yeah.
Where, what kind of permit? Where, you're talking. That would almost lead itself to believe that the code enforcement officer could issue some kind of a permit. But that's reading something into it, but it shouldn't be written in there that way.
Right.
That's not what it comes down to.
Well, I'll throw out a suggestion. This is the variance that was granted for the athletic.
You have it, 97?
No, well, I have the 97, but I also have this is the 2013 variance that was granted for athletic activities
I remember that.
confined to the interior of the building, and you could amend, base it on this variance and amend this under this application to change athletic activities to wellness center contained within.
How about if you use the term amend the previous variance of that date,
I like that.
That gets you,
to
Does that
include,
work?
health and welfare type.
that 97 was on the front of that.
I know, I did that.
So do you have to act on the current one though and turn it down and change that? How would that work then? Do you have any idea?
I'm not fully sure
What was the date?
exactly what we're
January?
discussing. I mean, I guess I'm not sure I see the purpose in amending a variance as opposed to simply approving or denying the ones that is before the board, but, I don't know.
Yeah, there was a very recent case, Supreme Court case, where the Supreme Court said that the ZBA, when it's looking at a variance application, can determine whether that variance application is actually necessary or not. And
Right.
Mhm.
So yeah, that, and, so I think under that, I forgot what the name of
I
it
thought
was.
that was really the point of the fact that if we found that a special exception would be more appropriate, we can
You
change
could
it
do that.
on the spot. We don't
Right.
have to
Right, go
Like
through all the
change the head.
gyrations.
go through the whole gyration all over again.
Right, and I think
Yeah.
that may get you where you need to be with this.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember reading that. Wasn't that one of those town, country, town,
Yeah.
city?
Oh, sure it was, yeah.
I think that was the church case,
Yeah,
Congregational Church in Manchester.
I remember that.
The only caution I might extend to the board would be that, without looking at the minutes and the record of that particular meeting, it's hard to say exactly what was represented, what was contemplated by the board. Whereas if the board acts on the variance application that is before it tonight, those questions are irrelevant.
Okay, if you put it in such a way as to where you
See,
are
that
allowing
was-
the proposed additions pursuant to the previous variance issued in January of 2013, that such additions would be approved. Is the addition additional uses being proposed. I think I said that, right?
Dory's right, we don't actually have the variance in front of us that was approved. We don't have the description of what was, we know it was to authorize a new door,
Why isn't that,
a new
that's the
door.
approval?
I know, these are the two conditions.
Right,
What was actually approved?
to allow an indoor recreational
Oh, there it
facility.
is, okay.
And so all athletic activities to be confined to the interior of the building. So now you would
Yeah, I saw that one. I didn't see
be
this.
issuing, no, I'm just getting, you'd be issuing a variance that would expand that to include health and wellness activities. In addition to those conditions on this variance here. Anything else to help us out here?
You doing a fine job.
You want a paycheck or not?
So are you talking about just actually
Well, wording-
saying that this, we don't need this variance, we're gonna change the,
No, that we would be
The
issuing
original
a new variance, which would be approving now a condition in order to expand what is permitted here in this variance.
no,
You run out of ink, and
What are we excluding? If we're going health and wellness, what are we actually excluding?
I'm excluding what's on the
We're
paper
excluding
about the hazard.
medical procedures.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's, yeah. And the use of hazardous waste, medical hazardous medical materials.
I don't know why it's necessary to mention that, really, get into that element of it, you don't get anywhere here.
I think you have to cap
Yeah,
it somewhere.
I know.
Well, she doesn't, but.
Somebody
the
else
other-
might,
The
right.
other,
I think you have to provide some kind of an upper limit to this, a cap to it. You know, so it doesn't go beyond therapy, massaging and that sort of stuff into the, you get into the actual medical field. We don't wanna do that to it.
Well, let me ask you this, if we had a nutritionist in the office who could diagnose and do things of that nature, but doesn't do the, medical stuff as far as things like that, would that be something that you wouldn't want in there?
Well, a physical therapist can do diagnosis.
Right, exactly, so I guess my
That's-
question is
That's
where,
not, no, he's talking more about actual medical procedures.
Drawing
Exactly.
blood, that's not.
Yeah, that's.
Gotcha.
How about invasive medical procedures?
That's what I was gonna say, yeah.
Yeah, that's maybe.
just put don't draw blood. Let's keep it simple. No, I'm just
Stop
kidding.
it. Go with the word, just like invasive medical procedures.
Procedures.
Got it. We'll get there, guys.
Psychiatrist would be a good one too.
Right, yeah, well, that's what we're thinking.
I can send a lot of people your way.
Yeah.
Not just that.
Here, I have a great person.
See you first and now.
That's an MD.
Right, it is an MD, right.
yeah, go over.
So the basic motion would be something like to amend the variance of January 28, 2013 to permit the expansion of use to include a health and wellness center, excluding invasive medical procedures and/or use of hazardous medical products. That's just,
Okay, the only thing I would question on the whole that is that first sentence there too. I know we talked about an amendment before, but rather than trying to amend just what was to approve the variance
okay.
for, what's it called in the,
Well, in the request, it was for medical offices.
okay, we don't have to approve it that way.
But it's also for renting the existing offices that are
See, a lot of medical offices, it's a pretty wide area.
there. New
Yeah.
ones, and
But that's what we want to
they're
limit
already there.
by what
Exactly.
you're
Just
proposing.
provide an income, renting them.
Pretty, yeah.
You want to exclude that.
Could I take a shot maybe? Just throw some language out, some wording?
Just a second, I got one. So motion to grant variance approving the addition of a nutritionist and a, what was the other label?
Massage therapist?
Just straight therapist?
Massage
Massage.
therapist.
Okay, how about if you just put it that way, to improve those specific uses?
Yeah, but then you're coming back every time you do it.
Right, when we.
Yeah, that's what we were trying to
Trying
get
to
away from.
avoid.
Right.
was-
Yeah, I think it's better to do a more of a blanket thing with what you were talking
The
about.
health and wellness center.
Right, so that way, if we
I do
got
too.
more people
Yeah,
in there within the limit of the
So you're
building.
contradicting what you said earlier, that if you do it your way, then you're coming back for
Mhm.
specific offices
You're right.
every
Yeah.
time.
What were you gonna say there?
If I may.
Sure.
So, the wording might be, move to allow a variance from zoning article 6.1 D2 and allow, I'll let you guys fill in the terminology, medical offices or wellness, health and wellness offices. And then maybe conditions, one, excluding invasive procedures, maybe businesses that involve biohazards or, what is the other term?
I just said,
X-rays.
What's that?
Hazardous
X-rays.
medical
Hazardous,
products,
yes, hazardous materials.
Materials.
Um, And then potentially something that has been brought up, and I'll mention again so that it's not lost, is there are 12 individual offices, I think somebody mentioned, and the board may or may not want to limit the number of individual entities that would be allowed in there. That's my suggestion.
Well, in the case of the massage therapist, she's currently using 3 offices. Who's to say at some point in time they might break down some of, if they're non-supporting walls, and make that one large office,
Yeah.
with cubicles or whatever, you know.
Or who's to say they might
It would
bring in 12 businesses and.
be a
is that
lot
what
better
the board
than
wants
running
to
out in the
allow?
hall back and forth to doors, you know.
Right.
Have it all internal, she might want to do something like that. So that would take away, that would reduce your number down to 9 individual offices.
Right.
I don't know, that might be something that will, the planning board would have to, or,
Yeah, that could be dealt with the planning board, that's right. And that's really where a lot of this stuff belongs anyway, is in front of the planning board. We shouldn't be trying to get into that, other than a condition variance.
right,
But as far as the proposed uses on the site and how they're constructed, that's really site plan activity, not
exactly.
zoning board activity.
So, so I don't know if I'd want to get into that.
Mhm.
It might be outside our rights bowl, you know.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, approve the variance.
So I'll word it again and leave that last bit out. Yeah, I don't have it written down, but to approve a variance of zoning article 6.1D2 to allow for
Health and wellness.
offices, to exclude, and then we've got invasive procedures,
Medical procedures,
invasive medical procedures,
and/or the use of hazardous medical materials.
hazardous medical materials, and do you want to say presence of biohazards, or just, okay.
Yeah, I think that should be in there.
Pretty state of the art.
Hmm?
Might as well use the latest terminology. Sounds good. Sounds like we know what we're talking about.
That's right, we got ourselves fooled anyway.
Thanks, Dory.
Yeah.
Are you comfortable with what you're doing? You still working on what you got there?
No, I'm fine with it. I'm exhausted.
Judge,
All right.
Yeah,
Done.
so,
Sorry.
I'll reiterate what I believe is going to be your motion, please let me know
You
if you
just
want to
acknowledge
stand
whether you're
behind
gonna
still.
accept it as your motion after you hear it.
So to allow, to allow a variance from zoning article 6.1D2
Let's say to grant.
to grant, okay, to allow for, what was the word, sorry? Health and wellness offices, at 100 Autumn Drive. These offices are excluding invasive medical procedures, hazardous medical materials, and any biohazards.
It works for me.
Well, we're gonna throw an X-ray.
Yeah, well, I don't know whether that comes under one of those.
I don't think it does.
Okay, you may want to put an X-ray, because that can,
Okay,
If they took
An- an-
X-rays,
an
they have to
X-ray
have.
I feel like if I had worded the
X-ray
second one right, I
technology.
should have caught it, yeah,
you may just want to add.
just put X-ray technology, simply,
Yeah,
okay, is that Mr. Brown?
Yes, yeah, I go along with that.
Can I just have one question out here? Why would you want to prevent, if they were gonna have a sports medicine office, for example, why would you want to prevent that from being?
What, the X-ray?
Not necessarily X-ray, but that which might involve an invasive procedure, and you have a doctor on site occasionally for activities. Why would you want to eliminate that possibility? What does that hurt?
Have a thought.
Huh?
Because that's, yeah, I don't think.
I think that it's, there's the staffing required when you get to invasive procedures. You don't just have one person, you have nurses and support staff.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think we wanna get into the doctor nurse.
I don't think that building would hold a doctor's office,
No, I don't think
sorry.
it would either.
Yeah.
I mean, just the
Talking
setup
about
of
maybe-
it, most of the offices that are left are upstairs anyways, so logistically, getting people upstairs for a doctor's appointment
Yeah.
is not gonna be conducive.
They're gonna haul them in an ambulance.
That's what I'm thinking.
That would be the preferred.
Don't worry about that.
And you can have
Okay.
an insurance office in there for the ambulance.
They,
too.
right. Look at this, we got it all planned.
Yes.
And an ambulance chaser while you.
There you go.
One-stop shopping.
That's it, we're hiring you all so you can help us.
Okay, so for final reading, it's getting past my bedtime.
All right. All right, to grant, so move to grant a variance from zoning article 6.1 D2 to allow for health and wellness offices at 100 Autumn Drive, excluding invasive medical procedures, hazardous medical materials, any biohazards, and any X-ray technologies.
That's it. Good.
Okay, do you want to limit the number of employees?
No, I think
You mentioned number of employees, that you might have one,
Yeah.
and the other,
That,
I think
that
the
would really
size
be
is
planning,
gonna
though,
limit,
get
yeah.
down to a planning board issue.
I don't think so.
yeah, okay, we
I
can leave it at
don't
that,
know
yes,
if
you're right.
that's, a rice bowl.
What is it with the rice bowl? He's hungry.
I don't wanna get into somebody else's rice bowl, I got a rice bowl of my own.
Okay, disregard.
Orientalism.
Okay, folks, you have the motion, you all heard it. Looking for a second?
Second.
We have a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Hearing none? The night is completed. Thank you, you have your variance.
I have an office space, thank you so much.
Thanks everyone for,
Give me your business card.
Yes, I can leave that.
yeah, that was great.
discussion.
I think we got it down.
I enjoyed coming back.
What's your morals?
What's that?
What's your morals?
Okay?
You see it every week.
I was by there the other day, the place was pretty
I
nice.
work for a nursing
Thank you.
agency.
Yeah, it's scary, you know?
I live right up the street.
I just wanted to.
It'd be nice if you wanted to come in there. Just drive up, we'll plan on like a 2 hour, an hour and a half later on. Work out great.
Are you,
Are we adjourned?
We'll just steal a little
I
water.
haven't seen any deer, Noah.
Yeah.
Motion to adjourn.
I made a motion to
Or
second.
even.
Second.
Okay. Thank you. Talk to you later. Talk to this fellow.
Is everybody
What you do,
here
right?
that
Yeah, definitely.
yes, can take the rest of your
Perfect. Yeah, I think that'd be amazing.